Okay, I'm going live in two places again, so we'll just try and make this work again. I just felt like it was something that I wanted to share with both my regular Facebook group, but also those that I have on my regular coaching page and in my in Instagram. So basically, I love intuitive eating and I want to share it with as many people as possible. So I'm just going to share a little bit today. As I mentioned in my Instagram feed, I'm going to be talking about the different principles of intuitive eating, one each week, incorporating a blog post with it on my website as well. And so I just wanted to give a little background on what intuitive eating is and what it isn't, but also really why did I change my focus as a coach for this? So it's a little bit of a personal journey here as I talk about it. And again, sorry, I'm bouncing between cameras and looking at different things. Hopefully it doesn't make you sick. So like I said, what it is, what it isn't, and honestly, also I want you to know how to know where you're at in your own life and how to take baby steps to get started if it's something that you're interested in. And I just noticed that one of my wedding pictures is on the floor behind me, so definitely keeping it real, having, my makeshift office in my bedroom right now because of different people working from home and kids doing school from home. So it's all very real. So like I said, I wanted to provide a little background on myself and my journey with intuitive eating, why I started doing this. If you know me personally, you've probably seen some of my journey firsthand. I decided that I wanted to become a health coach out of a desire to help people get healthier, but also to basically fix myself in some ways. And I wanted to reach what I thought was a healthy weight, an ideal weight, and look for myself. So starts out innocent enough, and I'm sure that resonates with a lot of you. So I started tracking, first in MyFitnessPal through some competitions, all very innocent. And then I started tracking macros because I felt like maybe that was a little bit better. Maybe I'd see better results. I'm a pretty disciplined person, pretty internally motivated, so it wasn't hard for me to do this. And I felt like I could do it no problem. I also started lifting, trying to change how I looked. And this was also when I started my master's program in health and wellness coaching. So all of this combined, I learned a lot. And I know that I'm a better coach for the knowledge that I have from my master's program, 100%. No regrets for going back for my master's degree. But I realized that, all of this that I was doing, I wasn't reaching this ideal that I thought I could get to for myself. In fact, at my lowest weight, I was still very unsatisfied. And I felt why isn't this working? Which I get asked a lot when people are talking about wanting to lose weight and different diets and stuff. And it just seemed to get harder and harder to make the choices that I was making and had been making, the tracking, the trying to fit in with certain calorie goal, whatever. I also started to notice that I felt like my focus was very unbalanced. I was really my focus was always on my appearance and my weight and my food, and it just didn't feel right. So as a person of faith, where my faith is very important to me, I just knew that this hyper focus was not coming from a good place. I could be healthy and not look this ideal image that I had in my head. Always wanting to look better, I realized, I am more than that. And all of us are more than that. We are all so much more than what we look like. Oh, I have to look a certain way. So this focus of always wanting to have the scale go down, always wanting to look a little bit different, lose just a little bit more weight, I just realized this isn't a good thing. This is not coming from a good place. So I just needed to pull back. And so I started to pull back from my previous focus on tracking and heavy lifting. And frankly, there's a lot more to this story, and I'm glossing over years of what I would consider some disordered eating behavior. Not an eating disorder, there is a difference, but they're pretty closely related. But hopefully you can get an idea of what was going on. And I'm sure you can probably relate in some ways. Perhaps you're like me and you try and really closely monitor your eating and your food, and all in the name of trying to be healthy and trying to continue to see the scale go down. I have a lot of clients and friends I know that just want to keep seeing it go down, and that is really a focus for them. I would ask you to just have some curiosity. Have you ever wondered if you are focusing on the right things? And what if this hyper focus was gone from your life? What would you be free to think of instead? So that was the question that I had in my mind when I started to look more in depth at intuitive eating. I knew that I would be coaching people. What did I want to coach them in? Obviously I wanted to help people get healthier, so I wanted to really be clear on what was health. And so I had casually looked at intuitive eating over, the past few years or the few years before that. And it's been around since 1993. It is not a new concept by any means, but I didn't get really deep into it, honestly, until I needed it myself. And I dove in head first. I wanted to make sure that however I started out my practice, I would feel rock solid in the principles that I was teaching. So I learned it for myself and for my future clients. I read the book, I did the workbook, I did the work on myself, and I decided that I wanted to take it one step further and become a certified intuitive eating counselor in addition to my master's degree. I've never regretted that decision one bit. And so to answer my question that I said, what did I gain with the hyper-focus gone from my life on the scale, on how I looked? Was the scale going down? What was my, have to be really regimented with my food? I gained freedom. Freedom to be aware of my body, what it really is, how it feels, rather than, does it look okay in the mirror? Is that exactly how it's supposed to look? I gained freedom to listen to it and learn from it. But I gained freedom to not wonder if I'm allowed a food or not. When you take away that focus on, like, is this a good food? Is this a bad food? Does this fit in with my macro count for the day? So much brain space was freed up. It was fantastic. But I was also free to pay more attention to what matters in my life. And that's personal for each of you. But for me, it was more time to think about other people and how I can help them. Like I said, I am so much more than what I look like in the mirror, or if I hit my macro count that day, or if the scale is going down. I found more time to be present and not worry about food and weight and me. But on top of that, I think I also gained more freedom. If I was going to be paying attention to myself, I wanted to be putting it into areas that matter more, personal growth and development, not just how am I looking on the outside. So that was a little longer than I anticipated, but I know parts of that, what I am saying, will speak to you because my story is not unique. I see it in my friends, I see it in the people that I coach. So like I said, a little background, but I want to go into what is intuitive eating. So when you think, or when you hear intuitive eating, what do you think? What do you think the first time? So a lot of responses I get are, what's that? What's intuitive about eating? What's the word intuitive mean anyway? Or a lot of the off-the-cuff comments are, I'd probably just never stop eating if I only listen to my body. Oh, that's funny. I can't do that. I hear that a lot, and I know that there's just a lot of confusion out there, and that's okay. A lot of people are ready for just seeds of information, just plant seeds, think about things, and then when they're ready, they come back to, they realize, like, hey, I need to do something different because what I'm doing, it's not sustainable, or it's not the focus I want in my life. So I know it's also gaining some traction because there are different groups that are claiming to do intuitive eating in at least some form, like Noom, for example. I've been asked that a few times, or have people say that, oh, Noom is intuitive eating. And if you hear what I talk about what intuitive eating is, you'll realize that Noom is not. So that's why I'm doing this series. As I mentioned, a week for each pillar that is within intuitive eating. There are 10 pillars, and post on my website, on my blog, to go into more detail. Education is something that I love, obviously. I keep going back and getting more education, but I personally love taking something that could be considered complicated, and maybe there's some confusion around it, and make it simple for others to understand. So for today, just high-level intuitive eating for beginners, some basics about what it is, what it isn't, and how you can get started. Just really some baby steps, really. And always, if you have questions or want to get into more information, reach out. Obviously, I love talking about it, so I have no problem talking about more. So I personally love Evelyn Tribole. She's one of the creators of intuitive eating and the author of the book. She mentioned when she talks to people about intuitive eating, especially teenagers, when she's counseling them on it, she likes to think about teenagers in their current state usually are more rebellious, and they're fighting with their parents. So she'll frame it as intuitive eating is about you being the expert of you, what your body needs to eat and how much and when and everything. And that resonates with teenagers because they're like, oh, I want to be in charge. I'm so sick and tired of someone else being in charge of me. So that always made me laugh when I think about that, because a lot of us, when we have been restricted so long, or we've been told, okay, you need to eat according to this plan, the idea that you are the expert of you is almost scary. It does feel very rebellious. It's like, wait, what? I can trust what my body wants and will tell me what I need to eat. It's very new if you have been trusting something else for a very long time. So there's more to it than that, but I promise that it is a process, but it's something that you can get through if you take the time to learn and trust your body. So like I said, it's overall learning how to trust your body again. Some other definitions that I've loved from other experts out there that have been in doing this for decades rather than me just 5 years or so. An intuitive eater is defined as a person who makes food choices without experiencing guilt or an ethical dilemma, honors hunger, respects fullness, and enjoys the pleasures of eating. And that is some of the basics of intuitive eating that I just love. I know very few of us are immune to the ideas of guilt and judgment around our food choices because of these food plans or ideas that we have in our head of how we're supposed to eat. And that's going to be something I'll talk about later in future videos about the ideas of food police and the different food voices that we have in our culture. It's very difficult to have these feelings of just enjoy food because of these voices that are constantly bombarding us. So another last definition that I love is intuitive eating is a non-diet approach to eating that emphasizes internal cues over external diet rules. So if you break that down, non-diet doesn't mean non-health. It just means we're not focusing on the scale. So I often will say that I'm weight loss neutral. We're focused on health promoting behaviors. So things that would be tested more internally. And I'll talk about some of the benefits to intuitive eating that research has found. But basically having a better a better body image and a healthier relationship with food. So those are the things that will help guide your eating choices. Rather than I have to stick to this plan and this is how many carbs I can eat and this is the protein number that I need to hit or this is my eating window, etc. So some of the popular diets out there. So again, it's focusing on internal cues like hunger and fullness, craving, and how food actually makes you feel when you eat it, whether it makes you feel good or bad, making those decisions based on food feeling good or bad within your body. So intuitive eating helps chip away at all of these diet rules, like what, how much, and when to eat, and helps you to learn you can respond to your own internal cues. So that's a lot of different definitions. So just to break it down, just some basic ideas, the ideas that I love and have put into my program when it comes to intuitive eating is what it is. It's enjoying food. It's eating mostly food that satisfies you, so food that you actually like. And you tend to eat the right amount of food for yourself when it's food that you enjoy, rather than, okay, I have to eat this amount of protein or this amount of whatever it is. And it's a process of relearning how to eat with those internal cues in mind. So trusting what your body knows, that it knows what and how much to eat. So on the flip side of that, what it isn't, well, my camera just moved. It is not sorry, I'm adjusting camera at the same time. Hopefully everything's okay. It is not a nutrition by numbers plan. So there is no number that you're trying to hit, no calorie goal for the day, etc. It is not a prescriptive meal plan. And it is not even a hunger and fullness diet. It's not just, okay, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. There is a lot more nuances to it than that. And it also, this is key, it's not a quick fix. This is the long game. This is how you want to eat for the rest of your life, rather than I'm going to do this for a month so I can fit into this particular dress or look this particular way. This is a lifestyle of eating and of honoring your body. And it is not quick, but it is how we all want to be. So the idea that I kind of end with is, we enjoy eating food, not too much, not too little, mostly what satisfies you. And food is not good or bad. Food is food. Taste and satisfaction matter. So those are some of just the key principles of what it is and what it isn't, just to help you get started. So if you're like me and how I was, it was like, okay, I want to dip my toe in the water and just learn more about it. How can I get more information or just try it out if I'm not really ready for what it could potentially be if it was a full jump in. So obviously follow the posts on my website, follow these videos each week. You can learn more as I go through the different principles and how you can apply them in your life. The other thing I would recommend is taking the intuitive eating assessment. It's a research study that was produced with the founders of intuitive eating in mind, and another third research researcher named Tracy Tilka. It's just a really short 20-question assessment that has you look at your eating right now and see where you might be struggling. It is a great starting point, and honestly, it's where I start with most of my coaching clients. But if it's something you're not ready to dive right into as far as the coaching part, it's something that I offer as part of a free mini session. Personally, I see tremendous value in the awareness that it brings. It's something that I do sometimes several times throughout the year just to see where am I at? Are there certain areas I need to work on? And I'm happy as a coach to help anyone who wants to see where they're at with their eating habits. And I love working with people just to, if they're willing to come with curiosity and open eyes to like, where are my eating habits at? So click on the scheduling link for an appointment or PM me for the link and we can get you hooked up with that quick assessment and then a quick call. Just a couple of ideas if you just want to try something out. Again, dipping your toe in the water. So without judgment, you can practice some of the hunger and fullness exercises. Look at your own eating behaviors and attitudes. So when you eat, ask yourself, are you physically hungry or are you emotionally hungry? And do it without any kind of judgment. There's times where you're just like, I just need to eat something. Maybe I'm nervous or something like that. It's just practicing the awareness. That's always really good to do. And if it's physical hunger, try and rate your hunger or fullness level on a scale of 1 to 10. From very hungry to stuffed, 10 being stuffed. Aim to eat when you're hungry but not starving, and then stop when you're comfortably full but not stuffed. And I think this is just a good exercise to start practicing the basics of awareness, which is fundamental to intuitive eating. So the benefits of intuitive eating are numerous, but research studies, just to give you an idea, have given us ideas of like, okay, we know that people who are eating intuitively have higher HDL cholesterol levels, which is great, lower triglyceride levels, which is awesome as well. But the ones that I love, the other benefits of intuitive eating are things like they report lower rates of emotional eating, lower rates of disordered eating and eating disorders, and then just higher self-esteem, better body image, more satisfaction with their life, with themselves, optimism and well-being, and then proactive coping skills. So those things obviously are going to be self-reported, but that is amazing to think that a style of eating and embracing your life can bring all of those to you. So a lot of times when we look at nutrition and health, it's super clinical. Did it help me get the numbers that I want? Did it help me lose the weight? But I think there's so much more benefit looking at the complex thoughts and emotions that surround eating. So mental health is part of our health, and that's a huge part of my intuitive health program that I run. So it's not just nutrition, it's not just your exercise, but we have to look at the mental health too. So when you're talking about some of the benefits that come from intuitive eating or a non-diet approach, you have to also think about what are some of the things that you're not going to run into. Food and body preoccupation. So if these are things that you avoid because you are not dieting, again, it's another win. So food and body preoccupation, weight cycling or yo-yo dieting, a lower self-esteem, eating disorders, weight stigma or discrimination, and then just really just a focus on your weight versus actually looking at health promoting behaviors and having your focus be there. So all of those benefits that I mentioned, whether it's things that you experience or you experience less of because you're focusing on intuitive eating, for me, those are things that I want for myself, I want for my clients, and I want for my children and people that I interact with. So that's one reason why I love intuitive eating. And I will say that's not the only thing that I coach on, but it is so foundational to my program and being able to look at all the other areas of your whole person health that I always feel the need to do education around it. It is really important. And I'm always just excited to talk to people about it because it is life-changing. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments or just PM me if you want to remain anonymous. It's totally fine. And I'm excited to continue to talk about these different principles over the next 10 weeks. So that is the end of what I'll talk about today. And then I'll reach back tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week with the first principle.